Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and as always, I'm joined by my bud Dave.
Hey.
So Dave.
So Lou.
I have a question for you.
Shoot.
What are your thoughts on the Power Rangers? Are you a fan?
Of course. Power Rangers were certainly a staple in this household when I come home from school. So this aired in 94, right? I think
Yep.
94 is the original air date, so I'd be 11. So I don't know, like the end of elementary school, beginning of middle school, I would say. I was watching this. And yeah, honestly, I have very vivid memories of watching Power Rangers, in my living room. So we used to have this really ugly green carpet in my living room.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, I don't think it was like a shag carpet. It was just kind of like a short, I don't know what the other term is, but it was like this really gross. We had wood paneling. We had a green carpet. It was a product of its time. But yeah, I love the Power Rangers. And I was doing some research yesterday for this episode. It's actually a rip-off from Super Sentai.
Yes.
And I remember I have seen things from this. Like, I don't know if as a kid, obviously I didn't know that this was a rip-off from that. But, through time, I'd be like, oh, that looks like Power Rangers. And obviously it makes sense that they ripped it off from Super Sentai.
Yeah.
So, I've always been a big fan of the whole over-exaggerated person in a rubber suit jumping around, flying around, fighting, giant monsters like kaijus and stuff like that. Like, I've always really enjoyed it. I love the Guyver movies. There's a Japanese movie called Kibakichi, which is kind of similar, where it's just a whole bunch of feudal Japan, demons and monsters and giant suits running around and just fucking flying. And once you when they get hit, they literally are on cables being tugged back at 50 miles an hour. I've always loved that stuff. There's this surreal quality to it that always dragged me in. And like I said, when I used to watch Power Rangers after school, that's exactly what it did.
Yeah.
And it's just captivating. The fucking theme song is sick. And watching this at 38 years old, it still gives me the same feeling. So those are my thoughts on the Power Rangers. What about you?
Yeah, just like you, I was a Power Rangers fan. I have a weird relationship with the Power Rangers because I feel like when I was really into that first iteration of the Power Rangers. I vividly remember, I forget what age I was. I don't know if I was 9 or 10. I had a Power Rangers birthday party. And I remember my mother getting me a cake and sticking the 5 original Power Ranger figures right on the cake, which was amazing. And then paper cups and plates with the Power Rangers on it. And these hats that you could wear that looked like their helmets. And I have pictures of this that if I can find them, I might post up, on our Instagram page and stuff. But I was a fan. But what's funny about Power Rangers, with me personally, is I remember when I stopped watching it vividly. I remember the last season I watched, and that was when they turned into kids and aliens took over as the Power Rangers. So the original Power Rangers were children. They got turned into children.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, and I think it was Alien Power Rangers or something like that. But I remember that's kind of where I was I think I'm done with Power Rangers. After that, the first movie came out in 95, right? And I remember that being
I'd never
big
seen
deal.
the movies.
Really? The original movie that came out?
I don't think so.
It's amazing. You have to watch it. But I remember that being a big deal. And I love the show, but I just remember almost outgrowing it because I was becoming a teenager, and you were too, because we're only a few years apart. You were becoming a real teenager, not 12, 11, not a preteen. And you just kind of stopped watching it. And it did get kind of ridiculous eventually, like, they were driving like cars as the what are they, Zords? What are they? The robots? What are they called?
Well,
what were the
wait,
robots? The Zords?
Henchmen,
No, the
Rita's
robots
henchmen are called putties. I have no idea.
The Zordon
is
yeah, forget.
Zordon. Yeah, I don't know. Zordon.
We don't know our
like
Ghostbuster names. Our Ghostbuster Power Ranger names, I mean. But yeah, that Super Sentai aspect of it, I always liked how they like combined some like old Japanese show with like they would shoot new segments with like these American actors and then just like cut and paste the old original show into it. Mm-hmm.
It's funny you said that because in my notes I had written down that it looks like the action sequences that when they're in costume are shot somewhere else, and they are. They're commissioned out, the battle scenes.
Yeah.
They're
all
not
the
shot in the U.S.
Like all of them fighting the monsters.
Yeah, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and all like the Rita stuff. Like Rita, like all her segments are like from the original Japanese show, and you could tell because they look dubbed. Like when they're moving, the mouths
I love her.
Just,
I love her overdubs. I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. She's always overacting. And it's funny because I remember watching, and it's funny enough because we're going to be obviously reviewing or talking about a I keep saying Ghostbusters. Power Rangers.
You said it, and by the way, you said it before too, but it's okay.
I know.
Our fans understand.
I don't know why I've got Ghostbusters on the mind right now. We're talking about Power Rangers.
Our listeners understand.
I'm more of a Ghostbusters fan than Power Rangers. But yeah, we're obviously going to be talking about a Power Rangers episode. But when you watch the show and you see like they did cast like a Rita for certain segments that were shot in America, and some of the Power Ranger stuff, like when they're in costume, you can tell because the footage looks like newer, like it was shot.
It doesn't match up. It doesn't match up
at all.
Right.
So that's like I guess that was always its charm, but that's not something you notice as a kid. You notice
not
that
at all.
As an adult. And I always thought that, like, looking back at it, it's such a sick concept that they basically just ripped off this Japanese. It wasn't even ripping off. They licensed the footage officially, got it, and was like, we're just gonna like splice in a storyline around these sequences. And a lot of shows did that. There's a lot of like Power Ranger shows at the time. Like, remember Superhuman Samurai and like VR Troopers? Yeah. All those shows did the same. Yeah, Beetleborgs. I don't know if Beetleborgs did it or not. I don't remember. But I know most of them like spliced in American footage with like Japanese for all like the fight monster sequences and stuff like that. So just a cool concept. I'm sure people that are listening to this episode that know way more about the Power Rangers are like Louie and Dave are butchering the Power Rangers because we don't know everything about the Power Rangers. But
I haven't thought about the Power Rangers until you told me this is the episode that we're doing.
Honestly, it's like because honestly we're both more into like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps, and I think if I remember correctly, this Power Rangers was on during the time of like Goosebumps, and they both aired here in New York on Fox 5. So I think at that point in my life, I leaned more towards Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark and horror shit
100%.
Because that was more our cup of tea. But I did enjoy Power Rangers in the end. I would catch it. Like I said before, I did feel like towards the end I was kind of outgrowing it and just felt like it was getting a little ridiculous when they like became children and aliens took over. And one of them, I think at one point in the group of like Power Rangers, it was like adults, or they weren't adults, they were like college age or high school age, and like a kid was with them. Legitimately, there was like a child and when he became a Power Ranger, he was like a grown-ass man. It was kind of ridiculous.
Amazing.
But that's enough rambling on about our non-knowledge of Power Rangers. We're going to be covering a somewhat Halloween episode of the Power Rangers titled Trick or Treat. So let's get into it.
Wait till you hear the totally awesome news.
What?
I'm going to be a contestant on the TV game show Trick or Treat.
No way, that's great.
Trick or Treat? Isn't that like the most popular game show in America?
So Power Rangers Trick or Treat aired on May 3rd, 1994. It's the 44th episode in the first season. That's a long ass season, dude.
You know, I was wondering about that. I'm not entirely sure if that's actually the first season. Did they condense everything into like one mega season, like unofficially, or did they really do like 60 episodes? Because it's like 60 episodes.
I think so. Again, I don't have all the facts down in my notes here, but I'm just going by what I read online. But that is, regardless, that's a long... again, we watched this on Netflix, and that's how it's on Netflix, if I remember correctly, right? Like, it's all, like, one long-ass, 60...
Yeah, it's like 60 fucking episodes.
So, I don't... It might not... See, from what I remember, I felt like seasons ended when, like, the Green Ranger showed up. Or... The White Ranger, remember that? Remember that was like that whole deal when he was, who's the White Ranger? Now, maybe it was different seasons. Maybe it was like the 4th season. I might be wrong, but again, those are the facts I could come up with. I know for a fact May 3rd, 1994 was the air date because I found that very weird because this is very much a Halloween episode without being a Halloween episode.
Right.
And that's a terrible time to release an episode like this.
Yeah.
Horrible. This is, honestly, out of all the like shows we've covered, this is probably the worst date they've all had. Because we've aired some stuff that was like right after Halloween or a few weeks before, but never right before summer. Like, so fucking odd.
Sure. Well, maybe they're just trying to, gas us up,
Yeah, and maybe they're getting us ready for the Halloween season.
That's what I'm saying.
In 94.
There you go.
And like I was just trying to think about it. I was like, why would they air this? And you and I had a little bit of a conversation off the air about why they possibly, like, why this was aired in May. And we'll get to that a little later because that's one of my cons. Sure. So let's jump into the plot here. Which isn't very intricate. This is not a...
no, it's not.
This isn't the most intricate plot ever. Let's get into the breakdown. So we've got Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, every 10-year-old's favorite, if you were a male or girl, you never know. All little girls, I guess, wanted to be the Pink Ranger, and all little boys liked the Pink Ranger for reasons...
I don't think I cared for her.
Really?
When I was a kid. Yeah, I don't think I had a crush on her.
Really? I definitely did. I was really into...
I understand why. I don't think I did. I don't know.
I was into the Pink Ranger. A little 9-10-year-old Louie was into the Pink Ranger.
Sure.
But yeah, she gets a chance to compete on a game show called Trick or Treat. And apparently this game show, this TV show, is one of the most popular shows in the country.
America, it's amazing.
For some reason, it's one of the most popular shows, and I'm honestly perfectly okay, yes, with a show called Trick or Treat being the most popular show in America. The winner of this game show gets a brand new car, and this is why Kimberly is super excited, and she obviously wants it. Now I do want to mention that I love that the episode starts with Kimberly like practicing her gymnastics because that's what she does. And she just notices Tommy, the Green Ranger, and Trini, the Yellow Ranger. Like, they're kind of just minding their own business because the Power Rangers, they hung out at that like juice bar that looked like a gym.
Dude, what a bizarre...
I know.
Like mishmash of like pop culture into one setting. You have an arcade, a juice bar, and a gymnasium, and it's just like a lot. It's a lot to take in there. It's cool, you know what I mean? It's fucking cool looking, but it's also like nonsensical. But hey, this is what, the early 90s, so hey, well, I mean, we'll take it.
And it looks very 90s. Like, when you see the color, like the walls and the colors of everything, it looks very 90s. And I always thought it was just weird that that's where they hung out with like that big heavy set dude I forget his name, that always served them drinks, and he was like a supporting character on the show. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, he wasn't in the episode though, right?
No. He came and went a lot.
I know who you're talking about.
Early on, yeah. Very odd. He had that was like their buddy. But yeah, Tommy and Trini are kind of just minding their own business there, and Kimberly she hops over and she's like, "Hey guys, I'm going to be on this show." It's a little awkward when you watch it because it was like, did we fucking ask you? Like, you just randomly came up to us and was like, "Hey guys, I'm going to be on this show." And they're just like, "Cool."
But wait a second. If you were going to be on a show called Trick or Treat and nobody had any knowledge of it, wouldn't you go up to someone and say, "Hey, I'm going to be on this cool show called Trick or Treat"? I would.
No, I totally get why, but just in the manner she does it, it's like very contrived. Like, okay, I'm doing these backflips, and then she just walks over like, "Hey guys, I'm going to be on this show." I'm probably overthinking it because it's the fucking Power Rangers.
She's making power moves.
She's making power moves. So she learns that her opponent just so happens to be Skull of the duo Bulk and Skull.
They are the best.
Which are the bullies that we all know, know and love, and more than likely, if you're listening to us, you know all these characters, so I don't have to explain who each one of these individuals are. I'm hoping everyone that listens to our show knows who the hell we're talking about, because at this point in the series, all these characters have been developed.
Yep.
As much as they can be on a children's TV show. So, there's also this really weird moment, not really weird, but kind of establishing, because again, Bulk and Skull are bullies. They're kind of just being dicks to Kimberly, and Kimberly shoves Skull's face into what I assume is guacamole, because this has got to be the greenest guac I have ever seen. So I just found it just so funny how she kind of just mashes his face, and then he raises his head, and he's just it looks like green paint is on his face. Maybe it was a smoothie. Who knows?
Maybe.
At the same time, we've got the big bad, Rita Repulsa, who I love Rita Repulsa. She's the fucking best. And we've got
her minions are great.
Her boy Goldar, that was my dude too. I love fucking Goldar. Big ass gold. What is he, like a
those
bear?
Costumes? I don't know what the fuck.
He's like a bear with wings.
He looks like an Anubis, I think. It's that Egyptian, that's what I think he's supposed to be, or it's supposed to be. It's like very Anubis looking. Yeah, he's cool. And what's like the flying monkey? He's my favorite. I think he's really surreal looking.
I forget. There's the blue monkey looking dude.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, and then there's like a bat too. It's like a human bat. There's the little monkey blue guy, and then the fucking
I'm talking
weird
about
bat.
the bat. I'm talking about the bat looking guy. He's
One
cool.
of them is like something with an S. I fucking forget too. But I know Goldar's like Rita's. That's like her main dude. That's who she'll sick on the Power Rangers whenever she gets a chance. But he always gets away. I think he's eventually defeated, but.
She'll set she just sends him to antagonize them. He's like, "Yo, go down there, go fuck with them."
So Rita and Goldar and the rest of the goons, they're kind of just hanging out in their palace on the moon or whatever the hell, Neptune, wherever the hell that is. And we learn that she's got this latest creation because, Rita's always creating monsters to destroy the Power Rangers because she hates them. And we learn that the name of this new monster creation his name is Pumpkin Wrapper, and that his seeds were planted and growing in a pumpkin patch on Earth. And I do I do love the show's depiction of this pumpkin patch, by the way, and I'll go more into that a little later when we get to it. I just love the visual of this random pumpkin patch in the middle of a field. It looks very cheap, and you could tell that they just put it there, and I love the way it looks because
it's just placed smack down in the middle of a field. It's funny,
and they're obviously fake pumpkins. There's nothing real about these these pumpkins. They're not jack-o'-lanterns.
There's stems. Even the stems are orange.
Yeah, it's super fake. So we cut back to Kimberly, who's now on the set of Trick or Treat, and she's dressed as a princess in a pink dress, of course. Of course, the Power Rangers always have to wear clothing that matches the Ranger that they are. So I always got a kick out of that. Even like their normal like clothes are red and pink and black and blue. And Skull is dressed as a convict because, of course,
like an inmate. Yeah.
An inmate. Yeah, of course, he would be dressed as a convict or an inmate.
I also like that his inmate number is written on his chest.
Yeah. Bulk and Skull are fucking great. I know you don't want to we don't want to get into them too much because I do know that's one of your favorite things about the show. But we meet the host of Trick or Treat. His name is Monty. This is what I got from his name is Monty Monty County or something along those lines.
He's pretty good.
He is good. He's probably the best part of the game show. And he's dressed up as Dracula, very stereotypical Dracula outfit. No teeth, which drove me a little crazy. He had no vampire teeth on. Or did he remove them? I don't think he had any on.
I don't think he had teeth. Yeah, I think you're right.
And he's honestly an asshole to Kimberly and Skull. Like, he's an asshole to both of them.
Yeah.
And he explains the rules of Trick or Treat to them while flossing, which I thought was pretty amusing. He's constantly like flossing his teeth. Now, there's also this little subplot I want to point out that all the Power Rangers go to like cheer on Kimberly at the show, except for Tommy, because he's got to like go to this karate tournament or some shit. It's just like it's some tournament he has to be a part of to compete in. It's super underdeveloped, and we're gonna get into that a little more later. But yeah, he can't make it to the game show. He's the only Power Ranger that can't make it. And Kimberly's all bummed because I think at this point they kind of have a thing for each other, but it hasn't fully happened yet. Like, they haven't hooked up yet, I think. Don't quote me on that fact. I think it's kind of still, I think the relationship is still bubbling and simmering, and they're getting to that point. They're just friends right now. But yeah, all the other Power Rangers are there. They're all wearing ridiculous costumes that match their colors too, of their Ranger outfits. I will say I do like that, like, Jason, the Red Ranger's wearing like this big ass Three Musketeers hat. Like, half of them are wearing these big ass
supposed to
dumb
be like
hats.
like bards from like the medieval times or something like that. They're not very good costumes.
No, they're not. So here are the rules of Trick or Treat. These are the dumbest rules ever, by the way. So you have to ask the host a trick question, and every time you stump him, you get a pumpkin point. And the person with the most pumpkin points wins. So fucking dumb.
Yeah, it is.
I just love how these dumb rules, this is the greatest show currently in America.
Look, if we're being very honest here, this episode was definitely just slapped together. There was not a lot of thinking on this. I personally believe.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent, and we'll get into that a little later, and I'll explain to you why you feel that way. So we cut back to Tommy, who's on his way to the karate tournament, which he obviously, again, he couldn't make it to the game show. And he just so happens to stumble across. He just so randomly stumbles across the pumpkin patch where
a
pumpkin
mysterious rotting pumpkin patch.
Rotting. I love how the pumpkins are rotting, and I'm fucking laughing because one of my favorite moments, as Tommy stumbles across this rotting pumpkin patch, is he stops right in the center of it, puts his hands on his waist, and says,
"Phew. I wonder where all these rotten pumpkins came from." Best
delivery of a line in this entire episode.
Let me tell you a story real quick about Tommy the Green Ranger. So at one Comic-Con, this is going back fucking years now. I don't know, 2011, 2012, I think 2012.
Yeah.
So in like the section where like you can meet celebrities and they have like a lot of panels and stuff like that, Hulk Hogan and Tommy, the actor who played Tommy, I don't know his name, they were next to each other signing autographs. And while people were waiting with big lines, these guys literally got out of their booths and started like enticing the crowd. And Tommy stood up on his thing and was like flexing and doing karate moves.
Yeah.
And Hogan was like flexing. It was fucking amazing.
That sounds amazing. He's like
That's
a trained...
great team up.
I think his name is like Jason Frank or something like that.
Jason, it is. I think Jason is his first name.
He's like a legit trained like martial artist too. It's like, no, I believe a few years ago he wanted to have a match with like CM Punk or some shit, if I remember correctly. Who, funny enough, recently came back to wrestling. Got to stick wrestling in there somehow.
There you go.
But yeah, he's like a trained, and he's, from what I've heard, I've never met him. I've never been to a con where he's been there. He's very good to the fans. Like, he's embraced, like, he owns up to being the Green Ranger and the White Ranger. Like, he doesn't shit on it, and he's great to fans. Him and the Black Ranger, I believe, are very... I've seen the Black Ranger at conventions before.
Right. Well, listen, and this is just my personal opinion. The Green Ranger is the coolest Ranger out of all of them. I'm just saying.
Listen, I will agree. When I was a kid, I loved the fucking Green Ranger. I loved the White Ranger. Watching a few episodes, after this episode, I did watch a few more.
I did too.
He's a little bit of a whiny bitch at times, but you don't notice that so much when you're a kid. You notice it more as an adult. I was like, wow, he's kind of a little emo bastard. Like, he's constantly like, all right. Like, he's a soft boy. He is. There's nothing wrong with that, Tommy. Though. There's nothing wrong with that.
Soft boy Tommy.
That's why my dude eventually got Kimberly. Soft boy Tommy. We know a soft boy Tommy.
Tommy.
So yeah. So Rita watches Tommy. not that Tommy. Tommy the Green Ranger.
We love you, Tom.
Rita watches him from her fucking crystal ball thing.
Dude, I love that. No, it's her telescope. I love that her telescope can literally see onto the stage.
That's what it is. It's a telescope. I'm confusing what Zordon has and what Rita has.
Right.
Rita has the telescope. So yeah, she's watching Tommy through her telescope, hanging out in this fucking rotten pumpkin patch. She panics and sends down a couple of putties to distract Tommy from the growing monster in the patch. And my dude has a kung fu fight with all the putties and defeats them. So my dude's a badass. Dude. He didn't need the rest of the Rangers to take on these putties.
Yo, Tommy's theme song is fucking sick, and there's like a crew vocal part in it, and it sounds like it's like out of a Biohazard song. It's just it's really good.
Dude, there's a line in his song, because I after watching this, I had to go on Spotify and listen to it. There's a line where he goes like, it's like, Goldar's gonna get you tonight. Like, it's fucking, it's amazing. It's ridiculous, but amazing. Yeah, so yeah, after Tommy defeats the putties, he contacts Zordon and Alpha 5 about the situation. And Zordon's just like, don't worry, continue on to your karate tournament. We're on this. Don't worry about it.
Because he has to, his powers aren't like the other Power Rangers. His powers have to be reserved because I think they deplete or something like that. So that's why he gets his own little fucking special treatment.
He only gets called in like fucking severe circumstances.
Dire need.
Yeah, yes. Dire need, when something is like, when shit's about to go down. I do like how they were able to like fit that in with his like limited appearances. I'm assuming they just had in the original, Super Sentai show, the Green Ranger probably wasn't in as much of the show as the normal 5, which is probably why they had to like write it into the American script. I'm guessing. It kind of makes sense. And it also makes sense because he becomes the White Ranger, and they just made it Tommy. So they probably got rid of the Green Ranger and then was like, all right, we'll just give Tommy the White Ranger, which is cool. Right. Going back to the whole using old footage thing.
Can you tell me the identity of the Power Rangers?
So we cut back to the Trick or Treat game show, and Kimberly's winning, of course. I do like how Rita and her goons are watching on too. Like they go out of their
saying.
Yeah,
you can she's literally watching from that telescope, like directly on stage.
She's got a feed of the game show. Yeah. It's so fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
And I do like how they're like really into the game show. Like they're super duper into it. So yeah, so Bulk tries cheating to help Skull by mouthing answers to him. It's dumb, but it gets like a point. Skull gets a point. And at this point he's able to play cuz in this game show there's like smaller games you get to play. So when he gets this, that was before, right? With Kimberly, I think I brushed over that one, but yeah, because this one stood out more to me. So he gets his point finally because he's losing terribly, and the name of this game is the Wicked Web of Disaster game. That's literally what the host, the Dracula host guy, Count Monty, says, or Monty Count, whatever the hell his name is. Basically what it is it's a giant web you have to climb and retrieve 3 bugs in 10 seconds and escape before the spider gets you. Amazing.
There's nothing to escape. There's nothing to escape
There's
from.
nothing but it's amazing how that is the concept of the game. So Skull struggles to capture fake bugs
and climb 3 feet.
Yeah, it's like a very small web. He's like
12
struggling.
feet high.
Yeah, he's struggling. He's like having a hard time just grabbing them. And what ends up happening is a big ass like rubber fake spider emerges and shoots white liquid all over his face. It sure is something, man. I never thought... dude, I never thought I'd be saying...
you love this.
I just never thought on the podcast I'd be talking about someone getting white liquid shot on their face.
Oh, boy. I'm not going into that.
Oh, no, we won't be going into it much more. But yeah, again, it sure is a visual that
it's so silly.
You won't forget it after you see it. I also like when they cut back to like the game show later on. Skull's costume is like off. You could tell he like had to wash up or something. He's got like a towel or some shit on his head because he was covered in all this white shit.
Spider goo.
I sure hope that's what it was.
Oh boy.
So yeah. So after the goo, Kimberly is literally like 1 point away from winning. And Zordon informs the Power Rangers that are in the crowd. He calls them because he needs their help. And they gesture motion to Kimberly that they're like, oh, Zordon, he needs us. We gotta go. We need to become the Power Rangers. And she pretends to faint and has to forfeit the game, leaving Skull as the winner. So he basically wins by accident.
He did it.
He did it, and he's super proud of this, by the way. He's super excited that he wins, and Skull's like, not Skull, Bulk's like, oh, Skull wins because she can't do it. It's dumb. The whole fainting, then she winks at them like...
Yeah, she winks.
It was a little eye-rolly, but again, it's a fucking kid's show. I can't give it too much shit, So...
Yeah.
So yeah, so the Rangers, they go to Zordon's command center and He explains the whole pumpkin patch thing. He explains about the growing monster, the pumpkin wrapper. And he shows them a video, which I thought was weird. He shows them a video of the monster before the monster is fully grown. So I'm like, okay, I guess the pumpkin wrappers emerged before, in the past, like before these kids were the Power Rangers. Okay.
And to quote Zordon, he will try to destroy you with his clever raps and rhymes. Boom.
I love how you have that written down because so do I.
Yep.
One of the best line deliveries ever. He also says after that he will wrap his vine around you and destroy you. That's it.
Yep.
He will destroy you, and he does. We'll get to that a little later. So after this, it's morphin' time. They become the Power Rangers in full, and they head to the pumpkin patch. They just appear there, running around, and when we get there, the pumpkins spring to life and jump on 4 of the Power Rangers' heads, not Kimberly's, because she went to go check a bush or some shit. She's like, guys, I'm gonna, dude, literally, it's so funny. Like,
it's amazing
going back and like reading this, like what happens in this episode back. It's just like, she's like, guys, I'm gonna go look behind this bush, and that's what saves her from getting a pumpkin on her head, because that's again, that's like a power of these jack-o'-lanterns. They go on your head. Basically, the way I could describe, they're kind of like face huggers. They're like pumpkin face huggers. They go on top of your head and suffocate you. So they're suffocating the Power Rangers, and they're all stressed out. So Kimberly, she literally, dude, jumps up from behind a bush. You see her looking behind some shrubs, and it's like, oh shit, and then runs over to the Power Rangers. She uses her like dagger. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
She destroys them and like cuts them off of the Power Rangers' heads. And she sets them free. And it's funny, I'm looking at my notes right now, and this is what I wrote. Kimberly is the only Ranger to not get pumpkined with a D. She's
pumpkined. Yep.
Pumpkined. She's the only one. But yeah,
what would make a cool would make a cool shirt? If
What?
someone took the Power Rangers with all the pumpkins on their heads and took Dwight from The Office with the pumpkin on his head and merged that and made it some kind of a shirt, that'd be really cool.
Man.
Anyone listening out there that's a designer, make that shirt happen.
I think we might have to start doing some shit like that because we come up with some cool ideas for designs.
Yeah,
that would be a wonderful,
absolutely.
that would be a good mashup design.
Yep.
So the rest of the pumpkins on the ground spring to life into pumpkin putties, which are basically putties, but with pumpkins on their heads, which is an awesome visual too. Just seeing the fucking, because I love the putties. I've always
the sounds they make are really ridiculous.
Like something like that.
Yeah, it's
shit,
fucking
right?
stupid.
It's great though, and like when the Rangers hit them, it's like they're hitting metal or clay or something.
Yeah,
but yeah, they have these pumpkins on their heads, and they're fighting the Rangers, and honestly, the Rangers defeat them pretty quick. This first round,
like always.
Yeah, you would think these pumpkin putties would be a little more powerful, but they destroy them relatively quickly. But the crown jewel, the main event of this fight is when the pumpkin wrapper springs to life. Now, before he springs to life, I just want to jump into this side note I have here in my notes.
Sure.
The Power Rangers become assholes at this point. So the pumpkin wrapper at this point, he's just a big jack-o'-lantern in this pumpkin patch. He's a giant one. He hasn't fully grown yet. So he's just sitting there minding his own business. Not really, because he did just sick a bunch of pumpkin putties on the Rangers. But the Power Rangers go up to the pumpkin and start to antagonize the fucking pumpkin by rapping in a circle. They have their own fucking rat circle. It's ridiculous. Yep. And they're talking shit to the pumpkin. And he just comes to life because of this. Because they insulted him. So you know what? I sympathize with my dude, the pumpkin rapper. He was minding his own business up until that point. They went there. They fucked with his pumpkin patch. My dude had to retaliate. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I get it.
You get where I'm coming from?
I do.
Now, I'm not going to get into the pumpkin rapper too much here because he's one of my favorite things of this episode. We'll talk more about him later when we get to our favorite things about this. But yeah, he comes to life after the fucking Rangers shit on him with their crappy rhymes.
Rap.
And we cut back to the I believe before we cut back, but he springs also another set of pumpkin putties too, if I remember correctly. He has like
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think another set of because he has 2 sets of pumpkin putties that emerge. He has his first set that they destroy, then another set that emerge with the pumpkin rapper because he needs another set of goons. So yeah, so we cut back to the karate tournament. And Tommy, dude, as Tommy literally
this is the best. Go ahead.
The best. As Tommy's name is called, on the fucking dot, as his name is fucking called, Zordon C-blocks Tommy and is like, Tommy, the Rangers need your help. And Tommy goes, fuck, walks out of the room, talks to Zordon. He's like, okay. And you even hear in the background the like instructor or whatever go like, okay, I guess Tommy's not here right now.
No, he said they dismiss him as a no-show. Meanwhile, he was right there, ready to walk up and do his demonstration. And then he just turns around and goes, well, guess I gotta go. And then they just disqualify him as a no-show, but he was there.
Yo, Zordon cock blocked the shit out of him. That's basically
it's pretty funny.
It is. It's hilarious. That's what I was saying, dude. Tommy's a fucking softie, man. He's a fucking soft boy.
It's not his fault. It's Zordon's fault.
No,
Blame
it's
Zordon.
fucking Zordon.
I'm gonna start a hashtag called Blame Zordon.
Blame Zordon. It's his fucking fault. Tommy didn't win the karate tournament because you know he would have fucking won that tournament.
Zordon, come in.
Tommy, Rita's pumpkin rapper monster is overwhelming the Power Rangers. You must get to the park immediately.
I got you. I'm morphing out of here.
So yeah, so the Power Rangers are getting their ass kicked by the pumpkin rapper and this second group of pumpkin putties. Tommy shows up to save them, and you know they beat the shit out of the pumpkin rapper, and I do love how when Tommy gets there, he's like, guys, I'm gonna hold him off, and he like runs towards the pumpkin rapper and like is fighting him, and he's like, guys, now this is how they defeat the pumpkin rapper. And the Power Rangers have this like, and I always like this because they have defeated enemies in the past with this weapon. It's called, and I have it here in my notes, it's called I believe it's called the Power Blaster. And
yep, it
dude,
is.
this fucking weapon rules. I've always loved it. Basically, what they all do is they all have individual weapons, and what they do is they put all their parts together, like all the weapons together like a fucking Lego set, and they're able to use that to destroy the monster. I remember that weapon, like they sold it in stores, and I wanted it so fucking badly.
It was fucking awesome.
And I never got it, like a play size,
I didn't have
like
it either.
Kid size version of it, and you could take the shit apart with like
it's
all
attached.
the fucking it's fucking it was amazing. Such a cool weapon. It was basically the weapon they used in this first season whenever there wasn't like a fucking kaiju battle, like in the Zords or whatever, the fucking robots that they had. Basically, that's what that weapon was for.
Because this one doesn't get to that. It doesn't come to a kaiju battle. They just use the Power Blaster.
I have more on that later on why that happened. So they defeat the pumpkin rapper unceremoniously. It's pretty fucking lame. Like and I don't want to go into him too much again because I'm going to talk about him here in a bit, but it's a pretty shitty final battle with
It is.
the pumpkin
Agreed.
rapper. Especially how they kind of hype him up the whole episode. They hype his ass up, and it's like one and done. He shows up and it's fucking over.
And he barely raps, by the way.
Oh, he raps, but yes, it's not much.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of his rhymes written down here. I'll be getting to that a little later. So the episode ends with like Tommy and Kimberly talking about them losing on their like respective game / tournament.
Yep.
And some nonsense about them being winners no matter. You're a winner no matter what, Kimberly. You don't need to win a game show, to prove yourself. And then he has this line, you would look really good in that car though. Like, I love how he has to fucking add that in at the fucking end. You'd look hot in that car, Kimberly. Sucks you couldn't win it, but you're still a winner. And then Bulk and Skull show up, of course, in the fucking new car. And they're gloating to Kimberly. And then out of nowhere, this like woman from the network that the game show Trick or Treat is on tells them that they're both liars, or not liars, cheaters. And that now they're being forfeited. So the car's going back to them. And then the episode ends with Bulk's. He's still in his mummy costume for some fucking reason.
And it like unravels as she drives away.
It gets caught in the door. Yeah, when the woman drives away with the car to take it back, and it unravels and Bulk spins out of control and then goes crazy. And that's how the episode ends. But before I close it out, one thing about the ending, it kind of makes no sense. Because why would they let them leave with the car to begin with if they already knew they were cheating?
They had to rewatch the tape. They got to rewatch.
They had to go back and fucking rewatch the tape.
I guess so.
Amazing. But yeah, that's Power Rangers. Trick or Treat.
We sure made deep dish pumpkin pie to that monster.
Yeah. I'm sorry it cost you your karate match, Tommy.
Yeah, there'd be other trophies, but you would look great in that car.
So I have just one thought I want to say about the show overall. After watching 2 episodes, because I did watch another episode before I watched this one, it was called Clowning Around, and it took place in a carnival. I could honestly say this show still has the same charm I remember it having.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to watch more of the show. So the Power Rangers rule. They still rule.
Listen, man, like I said, after this one, me too. I left out a couple of episodes, and I was like,
"Yeah,
I think I'm gonna watch some more fucking Power Rangers tonight." So I totally get it. But yeah, Dave, let's jump into our favorite things about this episode. So hit me with your first favorite thing.
So I love Bulk and Skull. I think they're great bullies, / like comedic relief, if you will. They always have cool like wardrobe. Skull honestly looks like an avant-garde like punk kid. Like he's always got like a beret on, and he's got like a vest and pins and stuff on it. He's just a cool looking, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's somebody I'd want to be friends with. Bulk is just your typical like kind of Neanderthal big guy, like I don't know. They're just really fun to watch. They're played really well, super over the top, and I loved Skull's costume. I love that he wrote the inmate number on his chest. Like that was really funny. Yeah, they were definitely one of my favorite aspects of this episode and the series overall. Like I said, I need to rewatch, but they are definitely a shiny moment for me. What about you, bud?
But before I jump into my first thing, I think like they lasted on the show as characters for a long time.
Yeah, they did.
Too. Like I think up until like a few years ago, like recently, like I don't know what's going on, but I think a few years ago I remember the Power Rangers being on TV, and I was like, "Is that fucking Bulk and Skull still on the show?" I wonder if they ever became fucking Power Rangers. That'd be amazing.
Nah, I don't want that. We don't need that.
No, but yeah, I agree. They are good characters. I do like how, the Power Rangers, even like not as the Rangers, have like antagonists. Like there's a bad guy. Like they have that even as like teenagers.
As not Power Rangers.
Yeah,
exactly.
so like they have they're like fighting these fucking monsters, but then they also have Bulk and Skull. So I can totally see like why you love him and why a lot of people like him. I think if you're a Power Rangers fan, you gotta kind of love Bulk and Skull. So
yeah, agreed.
So yeah, so my first favorite thing is the Trick or Treat set. The set.
Okay.
The concept of the game is dumb. It is the laziest attempt.
It couldn't be fleshed. Yeah, it was not well thought out at all.
It is the laziest attempt at a game show. With basically just try to stump the host of the show, and then he can pick and choose these like mini games, like the wheel. What was it? The Wheel of Death, or what the hell was it?
Wheel of Misfortune.
The Wheel of Misfortune, and then the fucking Web of the Web of Death, or the Web of Dismay, or whatever the hell it was. Like, just very like they didn't put much thought. Like it couldn't just be trivia. Like when was Halloween created, or like some shit? Like why did it have to just be stump the host? What does that have to do with Halloween, horror, spooky shit? None of that. I was just like so lazy. But I'm dwelling on the negative of the show, but the set was fucking awesome.
That is a positive. The set is awesome.
I love the gold curtains with like the skulls, the stars, the moons. There's also like this little area behind the host that has like masquerade mask glued to it. And then there's also this like big neon jack-o'-lantern
I have that in my notes. It's awesome.
Yeah, behind Kimberly and Skull. I love that there's like a ground, that ground level fog that we've talked about before. That like really thin layer of just fog just on the floor. The host, his tombstone.
Is sick.
Yeah, the podium, his
podium,
tombstone.
that's the word.
Podium with like the two giant faux red candles and like that strange gargoyle face on it. And also the podium for the contestants. Like they're like two, like Kimberly and Skull. It's like these giant pumpkins with like these bat mics. Like the mics have like these fake bats on them with red glowing eyes. And then just the big ass like homemade Trick or Treat banner with like orange lights on it with two big jack-o'-lanterns. Very, very much like screams 90s Halloween. For a show that's supposed to be the most popular show in America, they didn't have a very big budget. But regardless, that's the charm of this specific set. I think the fucking set's awesome. Again, the game itself, the concept is lame, but the set, fucking amazing.
Trick or treat.
You're incomplete. To the Power Rangers you can be.
All you are
is pumpkin meat.
So I don't have too much to go on this. I just know the artist's name, but the shred music that comes on when the putties come on screen with the pumpkins on their head is amazing. Yeah, it's just like this. So the performer artist is Ronald Aaron Wasserman, aka Aaron Waters, aka the Mighty Raw. That's what he goes by.
Dude has more names than Tommy Valley.
Yeah, and I didn't know he does. And I didn't know that the music was up on Spotify, so now I have to look that up. But the music has always been one of the most standout things for me on that show. And as it seems to be with lots of childhood shows for me, the music has always stood out. And I guess it makes sense because I do music. So it's like that fucking music. It's just like, it sounds like, so I don't know if our listeners are familiar. So Marty Freeman, one of the guitar players from Megadeth, he has like solo material, and the early stuff is like, very, it's so good. And it's just so, it's essentially, you know, now speaking as far as the Mighty Raw goes, Ronald Aaron Wasserman, it's just shred guitar music.
Yeah,
like it's
just
amazing. Him soloing and just fucking, you know, it's like really like majestic sounding. And I was just like, okay,
dude,
this
you know what?
This shit slaps.
I gotta listen to that album again. His early shit. He's fucking disgusting.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's called Dragon. I think it's called Dragon's Kiss or something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up right now because
like just listen to the main theme, like the main Power Rangers theme. That fucking solo in the fucking intro. It's like a solo. It's like a minute-long solo. The intro music to the Power Rangers and it's like an album because like the Green Rangers music that plays. Like that plays constantly in future episodes. The putty music, it's like like that piece of music. I believe always plays whenever they're like fighting.
Right,
putties.
they have their own themes and stuff. Exactly. And by the way, the Marty Freeman album is called Dragon's Kiss. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. It's everywhere. It's great.
I'm gonna give that a listen. It's been a while since I've listened to him or even Megadeth in general. It's been a hot minute. Mm-hmm. But yeah, dude, all the music, and I love. Speaking of the music on the show. I love how like they all had like their own. It was like Go Red Range. Like they all had their own.
Yeah, they all had their own little thing.
Thing. It was fucking great. Yo, dude, I wonder if the music, if they kind of kept up with that. It's probably not as good as like this first like iteration of like the Power Rangers with the dinosaurs and shit. Like
I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, dude, I agree though. The music, just in general,
the music is sick.
Fucking amazing. A++.
Definitely. Well, Lou, hit us with your second favorite pick.
So my second favorite thing is my main dude, is my main man, my main dude, the pumpkin rapper himself.
Okay.
So everything about this character, I fucking love. Everything. Now earlier you delivered that Zord line, which is like the first description of the character you hear. And I'll repeat, I'm being a little redundant, but I do want to repeat it here. He will try to distract you with his clever raps and rhymes and then wrap you around in his vines and will destroy you. So I love how that sums up the character. Now here's his physical appearance. And I think whoever fucking created this design, and it's probably someone in Japan, the Super Sentai people, it has to be for obvious reasons because all the footage with him is from the original series. He's a giant upside down jack-o'-lantern on top of like this viney type neck. It looks like vines, like pumpkin vines. And he's wearing his body's like orange. It's like an orange suit. And he has like these pointy boots. Like an elf, and that's what he looks like.
Like a jester.
Yeah, like a jester. And dude, the design is fucking amazing. I was at Target like
it is
a month or two ago, and they had a toy of him, a figure for like $10, and
seriously?
I did it. Yeah, it was on sale,
Damn.
and I'm fucking. I didn't buy it, but I looked on Amazon. And he's like $12, so I'm probably gonna buy him just because. And I don't collect toys really like that. I have old shit, but dude,
right?
He's sick looking. I have to get him. I
love the upside down head. That's a great touch.
It is a good touch.
Great little design
like
choice.
Flipped. Like I like that they just chose to make it flip. He would 100% be a perfect installment in our iconic Jack-O-Lantern episodes that we do. And I mentioned it but forgot his name. Like I knew he was a character.
Right.
And I was like, fuck, he would have been perfect for that. But I'm talking in depth about him now, so it makes up for it.
It's okay.
But yeah, he's a rapping Jack-O-Lantern monster. And I have some of his rhymes written here for you, Dave. Specifically for you. So the first one is, oh, you Rangers make me mad, waking me up with a rap that bad.
Amazing. Because it was bad.
That's when they rap to him to talk shit and wake his ass up. That's what I'm saying, dude. I'm on the fucking pumpkin rapper side. They fucked with my dude. He's an innocent bystander. And his other line that I enjoyed, this was it. It was, welcome to my pumpkin patch. Perhaps you'd like to play some catch.
Amazing.
And that's right before he throws his
But he
vine
barely
at
raps,
them.
though. He only raps like 2 or 3 times. It's like a line, too.
That last line I just said, that last rhyme, that's when he throws his vine at them and wraps them up to like electrocute them before the Green Ranger comes to save them.
You know what
they
should have did? They should have done what they did in Leprechaun in the Hood. Like after the movie in Leprechaun in the Hood, there's like a little music video where they have like all his fly girls and he starts rapping and stuff. They should have done like an extra thing with the pumpkin rapper and did like a little bit where he's just rapping. Like they should have done that.
They should have had like just a post-credit scene before that was a thing with the pumpkin rapper just talking shit at the very end.
It'd be amazing.
So I have a little trivia here when it comes to the character. So you mentioned it a little earlier that he doesn't have like one of the big Zord final battles at the end when like Rita makes her make my creature grow and she throws it and they get all giant like kaiju style and the Rangers have to turn into the Megazord or whatever and fight the creature. That's usually that's how they destroy the main bad guy in every episode.
And I was wondering why they didn't do it this one.
So, originally, there was a Zord fight between the Pumpkin Rapper and the Rangers. And for some reason, and I think it was because of time, because remember, these episodes had to be 30 minutes. Yeah. They cut it out, but they plugged that fight scene into a future Halloween episode of Power Rangers. Awesome. So my man, the Pumpkin Rapper, comes back. And we're going to be covering that episode down the line.
I would hope so.
100%. So yeah, I just found it interesting that like I guess they just didn't they couldn't squeeze it in. Maybe with continuity, they needed to show. Yeah,
I guess there was now, two battles. Knowing that. Yeah.
What I'm guessing happens in like the original show, not the American Power Rangers, is like after they defeat him with the power blaster, he probably turns big, and then they fight. Like, he becomes a giant, and then they fight him with the Megazord and the Zords and shit. But yeah, that didn't happen in this episode, but it does happen in a future episode. Okay. And I'm sure when we get to it, we'll be happy to see that. I also want to tell you, you know what the name of that episode is when we get it's called Zed's Monster Mash, which is amazing.
I saw the little thumbnail of it on Netflix, so definitely gonna watch that.
I just love how Zed's like he's gonna have a monster mash, and I think there's like multiple. I don't remember the episode too much, but I think I read about it briefly. I think there's like multiple monsters in that episode.
I would hope so.
And speaking of Zed, dude, that design is fucking awesome with the muscles and the brain and the metal. I fucking love Zed. Do you remember Zed?
I'm trying to. It's you know what. He was like on the. It's like literally like I'm on the verge of knowing what it is. I'm just to look it up right now.
He was like he was the big bad that came in after Rita had her run.
Yeah. He reminds me of like
Rita or something, some nonsense like that.
He reminds me of like a Mortal Kombat character or something. Yeah, it's
sick design.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, it is. Because it's like his muscles, like it's like Hellraiser style, like it's like Julia, where you just see the muscles,
and like you can see his brain on the top of the head.
Exactly.
He always looked like we talked about like how like speaking of, I was mentioning fucking Ghostbusters by accident earlier because of I don't know why when I was talking about the Power Rangers, but like he looks like we always talk about how like the characters from the real Ghostbusters look like they belong on like Madball and like Gorilla Biscuit covers and stuff like that. Yeah. Like to me, Lord Zed looks like he belongs on like a death metal, like an early 90s, mid 90s, like Florida death metal album cover, like ripping someone in half or some shit.
Like holding someone's spinal cord. Yeah.
Like he looks like he's primed for some shit like that. So.
I could see that.
Yeah. So when we get to that episode, I'm sure we'll talk about Zed even more. So
yeah.
Also, I have one more little bit of trivia here I found online. It's silly, but I wanted to mention it. The only line that the pumpkin rapper has that isn't a rhyme is when he says, "Attack now, get 'em." When he talks to the putties. That is literally his only line that isn't a rap. I found that interesting that someone put that up on the internet as a piece of trivia or a fact about the pumpkin rapper. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it is.
It's just a bunch of pumpkins.
No, Zach. They are Rita's evil doings. These pumpkins can attach themselves to your head, making it impossible for you to see or breathe.
Oh my gosh.
So Dave, what are some of your cons? What's something you didn't like about this episode?
Honestly, the one that, we had talked about Tommy just being dismissed from walking away, just being like, "Oh, I gotta go," and then he just gets disqualified. That was like, this episode as a whole is kind of lazily slapped together, I felt.
Yeah.
But like my main con for this episode was that the costumes and the audience for the trick or treat show there was no effort put into that at all. Like, they're just like masquerade costumes, really. Like, they're nothing. And I was like, I'm trying to look at the costumes, like, oh, that's cool. Nothing. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, they were pretty lame. Like, I felt like you look at like the audience, there was like dumb, like there was a woman holding like a rolling pin. It was like fucking
it's just not thought out. So I was just like, you're gonna have a show like Trick or Treat, and you're not even gonna put any. They did do the set cool, but they did not put any thought into these costumes for the audience members. So that's really my only con about it. Like I said,
that did suck. I did when you told me that, like when we weren't recording, like off air. I was like, the fucking costumes, because I watched this episode twice. They're shit. They're horrible. I will say the best costumes are probably the host, the game show host, as the Dracula. Of course, that's a classic costume. And then Bulk's mummy costume. That's probably
that was
it.
good.
Those are probably
I like
Skull.
I like Skulls too.
Yeah, his wasn't bad either. It was those three were probably the best. Kimberly's princess costume was fucking lame. The Power Rangers costumes were fucking lame, and and that honestly that could take us into my. I have two cons, and my first con, and we talked about this off air as well, and I was like, this would be a good little brief conversation to have on the podcast. This episode doesn't really take place on Halloween, but has so much to do with Halloween that it makes almost no sense that they would do so much Halloween shit in a non-Halloween episode. It's dumb. Yeah. It's fucking stupid. And on initial, upon watching it for the first, my first viewing, because I hadn't watched this in a while, I was like, okay, it's Halloween time. But then I realized, because I had texted you, I was like, they don't say the word Halloween a single time. And you were like, I don't think it takes place during Halloween. And I was like, you have a fucking monster that's a giant jack-o'-lantern. You've got pumpkins. You've got a game show called Trick or Treat. There is literally, this entire episode oozes Halloween. Even there's costumes, they're not great, but there's still a lot of people wearing costumes. I'm like, what a missed opportunity. Just fucking set it on Halloween. Fucking weird. Fucking weird. And my second con is Tommy's whole fucking subplot with the karate tournament. Like, it's funny, like, watching back, like, him getting fucking cock-blocked from being, like, a part of the tournament right when his name's called. But I only like making fun of it. The actual concept of it is fucking so dumb. So lame. He could have just been there with her at the...
That's what I'm saying. The entire subplot could have just been eliminated, but whatever. Yeah. It's a Power Rangers. 24 minutes. I mean, it's,
yeah.
Whatever.
Like I said, I think that was kind of like Tommy's, like, again, he's a soft boy. That was like his thing. He always was disappointed and let down and down in his luck and loses his powers eventually.
But my dude knows how to get a crowd going at Comic-Con, I'll tell you that.
The real dude, my dude Jason Frank, the Green Ranger, he's hyping everyone up.
That's right.
So so to close out, Dave, would you consider this an essential Halloween watch? Is it a good Halloween watch?
I don't want to say essential. I would say you could take it or leave it.
I think it is. I think regardless of it not really taking place on Halloween, dude, there's so, like, come on. There's so much about this that is, like, Halloween-centric. Like...
Oh, no, there is. And like I said, it's take it or leave it. Like, I don't think you're wrong for wanting to add it to your Halloween playlist. I also could see why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
So
the only thing I feel, the only thing I think it's missing is that it all takes place like during the day. So there's like zero creepy atmosphere.
And there's nothing. That's the thing. The show doesn't have, besides like some of the sets, like Rita's headquarters, Zordon's headquarters, like the actual like school settings, like the actual like the juice bar, like there's not much atmosphere to it. So like they could like really benefit from making it a little more atmospheric or a little, you know what I'm saying? So you're right though. There's no night scenes or anything. It all just takes place in the day.
It's just so odd. Like, I guess maybe because the time they were going to air it, they were like, it's not really the season. But still, like, there's so much about this episode.
Yeah.
That's Halloweenie. I just don't. It's just a weird production choice behind the scenes to make it fucking
whatever.
Not Halloween. Like, not set during Halloween. But again, I think the pumpkin rapper is fucking iconic. My dude is Halloween. My man is Halloween. And if there's anything you take from this episode, is that my dude, the pumpkin rapper, he's just a fucking man, dude. He's just the man. He makes this entire episode. As corny as the rap is, as corny as some of the shit he does is, and as lame as they fucking like depict him, like he's not much of a challenge for the Ranger. He's still that dude. He's the fucking man, dude. And I would recommend this fucking episode to anyone simply because of the pumpkin rapper. He's fucking great. He's fucking great. I love him.
He will try to distract you with his clever raps and rhymes. Then he'll wrap his vines around you and destroy you.
Pumpkin rapping is about to happen.
So that was Power Rangers Trick or Treat. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Haunted Hangover. And be sure to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/HauntedHangover31.
And if you can rate and review us, that would be greatly appreciated.
And remember, the best cure for a hangover is...
more booze.
Later, guys.